So, good afternoon, good evening, good morning to you, depending upon your time zone. This is Neil Matthews from webpolyglot.com, and today we're going to have a session all about building multi-language and multi-currency websites. For those who don't know me, as I said, my name is Neil Matthews, and I run a web development agency at webpolyglot.com, and we specialize in building multi-language websites. So we specialize in that, and that's our forte, so we can deliver the best results to our clients. Let's have a quick look at the agenda for today's session. First up, it's a very practical session. It's not going to be much in the way of presentation. I'll go straight over to demonstrations after a couple of slides. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to install WooCommerce, which is the e-commerce plugin of choice that I use for multi-language, multi-currency sites. Then on top of that, I'm going to add WPML. If you don't know WPML, it's a multi-language plugin for WordPress that allows you to host multiple versions of your content in different languages. But the beauty of this is it integrates very neatly with WooCommerce, so we can have multiple copies of our products in different languages. So it enables us to serve up our product descriptions and our images in different languages for different audiences. Then I'm going to translate some products, excuse me, and then I'm going to look at some multi-currency options. Using these two plugins, what we can do is we can hold multiple products, but we can also hold the products in multiple currencies. So for example, if somebody from the US comes to your site, they can see the product in English and in US dollars. If they're from France, they could see it in French and they could see it in euros. I'll show you how to do that. And we'll go through those various steps, and I'll demo the site once we've done that. Just a quick note, the session will be recorded, so if you want to view it again, I'll be making this available as a blog post so you can see the video again at your leisure. So don't worry about taking too many notes, it will be available for you. At the end, I'll open the floor to a question and answer session, and the estimated time for this should be about 30 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes depending upon the questions at the end. So as I said, very few slides from me, so we're going straight into the demonstration. What I'm going to do is I'm going to build a very simple multi-language, multi-currency site. We're going to have English and French as the languages, and then we're going to have two currencies. We're going to have GBP, that's British pounds, and euros as well. We'll have two products in there, and then I'll add translations of those products. And last but not least, we'll use PayPal for the checkout. So fairly simple, not too in-depth, this e-commerce site. Bear in mind, I don't want to take too much of your time up. I'm only taking 30 minutes, so it'll be a fairly simple site. So let's go over to my demo site and start the build. So what we're going to use is this site here, dev.webpolyglot.com. It's just a bog standard WordPress install. All of the sites I build for multi-language and multi-country are based upon WordPress. Why is that? Well, it's got all the supporting plugins and it's been developed already to allow you to support multi-language and multi-currency. Why reinvent the wheel? So go with WordPress. It's a basic install, and then what we're going to do is start building up the layers by adding some plugins. So let's go to the dashboard now. So under plugins, I've already installed the plugins but I haven't activated them yet. The first thing we're going to do is add WooCommerce. So let's activate that. One thing I will say, when I'm running these presentations, there's a lot of video going up and down my network connection, so it can be a little bit slow. So apologies about that. So we've activated WooCommerce, and the first thing it does is it asks us to start installing the WooCommerce pages. What it means by that is to add things like a checkout, a store page, a cart page, and a couple of others that are specific to WooCommerce. You can do this manually, but for the speed and ease of this presentation, I'll just run the wizard. Let me just make sure that that's run correctly. I think we're there. Let's just double check and I'll show you what it's created. So what that's done is it's added these system pages here. So there's things for accounts, there's a shop page down here, checkout page, and a cart page. Let's have a look at checkout to show you what it's done. Nothing hugely exciting, it's just put a series of shortcodes into these pages it's created, and they are special information to tell WordPress that it needs to serve up, for example in this page, the checkout. So that's a very basic WooCommerce install. Let's extend it a bit. And what we'll do is go to WooCommerce and settings. And let's add a payment gateway. As I said at the top, we're going to use PayPal. So there's a PayPal option there. And let's enable it. We need to set our PayPal. So that's just my PayPal email address, so it knows which account to send to. And let's save that. I'll go very quickly over the other WooCommerce options. We can set things like our currency. I'm going to use pound sterling as our currency for this test. You can see which countries you're going to ship to. You can set things like tax. So if you've got a local sales tax, just reading some of the questions there. Sorry, Catherine's had to go off because there's a fire alarm going off in a building. Hurry back, Catherine. We can set shipping. So if you have different shipping rates, you can set all those kind of things. I'm not going to go too in depth on the various options that are available in WooCommerce, just to highlight that they are there. So once we've set up our shop and our tax, shipping, inventory, that kind of thing, we can start adding products. So let's add a couple of products. So let's call this test product 1. I'm going to put the EN on the end just to emphasize that this is an English language product for later on. Let's just get some test text. And that's probably a bit much. Let's get rid of some of that. Scroll down and we can set things like the price. Let's say that this test product costs £10 and the stop keeping unit is number 1. Let's add an image picture. Let's set that featured image. Let me do that again. Oh, these live things always go wrong. It's not letting me set our featured image for some reason. Let me just have another go. And let's upload a new file. No, for some reason, I think it might be because of the GoToWebinar. Sometimes it does cause little issues like this. Essentially, you'd set your featured image there. Just gonna have to take my word that it does work correctly. So let's publish that one and let's add another product. I'm adding 2 products and I'll show you why once we get to the multi-language portion of the session. So we'll call this test product 2. Put some test text in. Let's try again, shall we? Fingers crossed. No, It's worked this time. Excellent. So what we've done, we've built a very basic e-commerce site. We've added a couple of products. Let's have a look at the front end and see how this all fits together now. One more thing before we do that, we need to add the shop to our menu. So if we go down to Appearance and then Menus, let's just add the shop. And then save that menu. So now if we go into our shop page, we should see our two products. There they are. Let's add that to cart. And if we view our cart, we can see we've got one test product costing £10, and we can click on Proceed to Checkout, and that should take us to the checkout option where we need to fill in our name and address. And then finally, we can place our order to PayPal, and that will go off and collect our cash from PayPal. All fairly standard e-commerce to that point. But we'll cancel that. So we'll cancel this and go back to our site. So I guess what we're really interested in is looking at extending a simple e-commerce site and making it multi-language, multi-currency. So what we're going to do now is activate our WPML software. So we'll go back to our plugins, install plugin. And again, I've got them installed but not activated. So we've got our Multilingual CMS. Let's activate that. Don't worry about links to any of the plugins. I'll include those in the blog post I'm going to create with the replay. So all the links and everything to get these plugins will be available from that blog post. So we've activated Multilingual CMS, but what you also need is this additional plugin, which is the WooCommerce Multilingual, and that's the glue that sticks WPML and WooCommerce together. Let's activate that. Let's go to WPML, start the configuration. So I said we're going to have two languages. We're going to have English, and the second language we're going to have is French. Let's click that. Obviously you can have any number of languages that you want, any of those on the list. And essentially what we've done is we've installed WPML at the point. Again, it's a very basic install. I'll come back and add some additional things in a moment. So what we're going to do, first up, we're going to translate some of the pages that we've got. Let's translate the About page, for example. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to, these are just empty pages. I'm just going to, with some test text in, I'm just going to copy that. Let's quickly edit the French page, just so we know that it is a French when we're doing some testing. Let's just FR on the end. And let's do the same for the cart and the checkout. Obviously not the most exciting bit of a demonstration, so I'll try to get through this as quickly as I can. As you can imagine, if you're doing a proper build, you'd go through every page and you'd translate that, but time constraints are, I'll just do the system pages that we need to focus on. So what we'll do is we will also translate the menu along the top of the site. So under Appearance and then Menus, let's create a new French menu. Call it Main Menu French. I've just realized I've missed off 2 pages, very important pages that I need to translate, so let me just jump back and translate those. It's obviously the shop page, so we can't get to our French shop without a French shop page. And a home page as well. Let's jump back to our menu now and configure that. So if we go to our French menu again, let's just change the label so we know we're on the French site. Last but not least, let's add a language selector so we can flip between languages. So what we'll do is we'll add it into our menu. Let's just put it into the main menu. Okay, let's bring that all together and see what we've got now. So we have our language selector here, and we've got one on the sidebar as well. So if we go into our shop now, we can see our English products. If we flip over to French, we can see that we haven't got any products yet, because obviously we haven't translated them. So let's translate some products into French and see how that works. So under products, let's do test product number 1. And again, very much like translating the pages, we have some translation buttons over here. So if I click on that, we can duplicate that. Let's go over and make some changes to the French product so it looks a little bit different. Let's call it produit. That's my tell we're French come into play. And what we can also do is we can set a different featured image. So perhaps your images have some English text on it and you have a different image that has French text on it. You can use alternative images as well. Let's try uploading another file. And set that as the featured image. Yeah, it's working now. Let's just click on the Translate Independently button. What that means is it allows you to translate the two products independently. It doesn't keep them synced if you change anything. And finally, let's update that. So let's jump back to the English version. So we have two products there. So if we pop over to French, we then have one product, which is interesting to note. If a product isn't available in the target language, it isn't displayed. So that might be interesting if you have certain products that are only available in certain languages or certain regions. I can't think of a very good example of that. Perhaps you sell something that's particularly heavy and you don't ship it overseas, so it might just be a local territory that you want to sell it to. So you can sell different products to different markets if you wanted to. Something else to note, I haven't done any of this, but immediately it's picked up the fact that this is a French translation and all the buttons and all the cart and everything are already translated into French. This is something that comes with WooCommerce. So if we add it to the cart and then view the cart, au revoir panier, it makes a liar of me because I haven't translated the cart page. Let me just do that quickly. Just realised what the problem is. I haven't set the permalinks properly. This is all live, you know, no safety net. So we can expect little issues as we go through. So let's look at that again. So we looked at the shop, flip over to French, add to cart, view cart, yeah, so there we have it. Our French cart is showing us all the buttons automatically translated into French. So at that point we have an e-commerce site, we have a multi-language site. Let's bring it all together with the final aspect, which is multi-currency. Again, go back to WPML and let's make sure we have the plugin activated. Let's get the latest version as well to make sure that works with what we've got. And if we go to WPML, we have an option to enable, if I can remember where, to enable multi-currency. Is it here? No, it must be under the WPML settings. Bear with me. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. It's a tiny little tick box hidden away in one of these options somewhere. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Essentially what happens is you get a new menu option that enables you to map a language to let's just check I've got the plugin installed correctly. Let me just check the documentation. I know what the problem is. I haven't enabled the correct currencies. That's what it is. Sorry about this, folks. As I said, it's all live, so no safety nets, so do expect little issues like this. There we go. WooCommerce Multilingual. I was missing a couple of plugins. So what we could do is, first of all, let's enable multi-currency. We can automatically calculate prices, or we can set an individual price per product. So if you had hundreds and hundreds of products, it's probably a pain to go through them all and add a second price. What we can do is automatically calculate the price based on an exchange rate, or you could, if you've got half a dozen products, you can go in on a per product basis and set the price. So I'm going to do automatically to show you what that looks like. So what we need to do is select language, set the currency code, in this case GBP, and the exchange rate is going to be 0 because obviously that's our base currency. Let's add another one. So we're going to French. I think the current exchange rate is 1.17 to the pound. So let's add that. And that's it for that side of things. Bear in mind, this is a manual currency. If the exchange rate was to fluctuate a lot, you would need to manually go back in and edit that and update the changes. So let's see what that looks like on the cart now. So let's just refresh that. As you can see, the price is now in euros and it's 11.70 as opposed to £10. So it's automatically applied that exchange rate. The alternative, as I said, you can manage the prices like that. And then if we go to our products, let's go to our French product, edit that. And we could set the euro price, say, for example, it could be 15 euros if we wanted to do it manually. Okay, let's have a quick look at how that works now. So if we go to our shop, let's add product one to cart. Change that to French. Let's see, we have there 15 euros down there. That, in a nutshell, is how you go about building a multi-currency, multi-language e-commerce site. Obviously, this is a very simplified and much reduced e-commerce platform. We've used PayPal as our checkout, as our payment gateway. You can use any number of different payment gateways. There's plugins for Google. If you've got your own merchant account, you can plug all those into WooCommerce. So the list of carts is quite extensive. I'm using a basic bog standard theme, which is compatible with WooCommerce and WPML. There are sometimes issues with themes that aren't compatible with multi-language sites, so that's just something to be aware of. And of course, we've got no plugins, so the only plugins that we're using are WPML, WooCommerce. As you add new plugins, it can add complexity, so that's just something to be aware of. It may have seemed very simple, apart from the bit where I couldn't find how to make the currency work. But bear in mind, as you add extra layers, extra plugins, a more complex theme, you might have little issues. Let's jump back to the presentation now. Let's just start this again. Just a closing word for me before I open up the floor to questions. If you need further help with the multi-language or a multi-currency website builds, please contact me for a no obligation quote. You can contact me at neil@webpolyglot.com or go to webpolyglot.com and go to the quotation page. On that, let's open up the floor to any questions you might have about building multi-language, multi-currency e-commerce sites. Dave says, can I use it across, sorry, I can't read that. Let me just scroll down a bit. Across countries that use the same language, e.g. US, UK, Australia. Yes, Dave, what you can do is you can add 3 versions of English. And instead of treating it as a multi-language site, you can treat it as a multi-territory site. And then you can have the same products all in English, but then you can change the currency. So if they switch from US to GB, it goes from dollars to pounds, and obviously to Australian dollars. So yes, you can do that. Catherine's saying, how can I customize the way this WooCommerce pages display? Where's the CSS, and is it safe to modify it? We didn't really touch on that too much, but yes, you can customize it. I'll dig out some links all about customizing those types of page, but essentially what you can do is you can create a customized loop and display it how you want, and you can change the colors. Let me just drop back into WooCommerce and show you some of the options that are available out of the box as well. One moment, please. On the settings page, there's some basic CSS and stuff like that, but there is a WooCommerce CSS file whose name I can't remember off the top of my head, so I'll dig that out for you. Let me just make a note of that. But bear in mind, if you go to Theme Forest or WooCommerce themselves, you can buy pre-made themes that are styled and make your shop look a little bit different out of the box. So you don't necessarily have to do all that design work. You can get a, let me just have a look. If you go to the themes and do a search on WooCommerce, there are a series of pre-made themes that all look a little bit different, that work out the box with WooCommerce. Same goes for themeforest.net. If you do a search for WooCommerce, you can get a list of some really well designed sites. But for you, Catherine, I'll dig out the CSS, the name of the file, and I'll send that along with the replay once I've got that up. Patricia says, if you're using USD, US dollars and GBP, do you have to replicate all the content for both languages currencies? Yes, you will. So essentially what you'll be doing is you're not creating a second language, you're creating a copy of it in a different territory, but there are tools that come with WPML which will do all of those automatically for you. If you go down to, I think it is translations. No, it's not that. Translation management. You can do this multilingual content setup, and that'll duplicate all of your content for you automatically. So if you're doing it, so you don't have to type in your English text twice. Rob's saying, you missed the start. Will there be a replay? Yes, Rob, what I'm doing is I'm recording this session and I'll upload it as a YouTube video, and I'll send out the link via email as soon as that's available. I'm just reading Eric's question. Is a bit in depth. How are the currencies sent to the payment provider in the translated currency or base currency for the site? If translated, is it possible to have location language specific providers, e.g. foreign exchange fees, French PayPal versus English PayPal, or does the user need to choose the correct provider when she checks out? That's a good question, Eric, because as far as I'm aware, there is just a single PayPal installation. Let me just double check this. I see what you're saying. So if I check out from France, you'd like to go to PayPal France. If I check out from PayPal in Britain, you'd like to go to the English version of PayPal. Let me just double check that. I'm not sure, Eric. What I'll do is I'll do some investigation and I'll get back to you on that, if that's okay. That's a very good question. Obviously, you'd rather deal with a local PayPal than a remote one. But you're saying, so if you're editing something, you have to edit in two places. If you've got multiple languages, obviously yes, but you can set up, let me just show you. You can sync content. Let me show you one of the untranslated pages. Let's have my account, for example. We haven't translated that. Now, if I was to lorem ipsum that, create a duplicate, and then look at that. Oops, let's have a look at it. We have this option here. Until you set a product or a page to be translated independently, if I update the original, the English version, it'll automatically push it to that. So if you wanted to keep a product synchronized or something like that, you could do it that way. Edward's saying, is WPML recognizing product attributes properly? When I install WP on my WooCommerce site, the product attributes don't appear properly. I'd have to look at your individual site on that, Edward. So I guess you're talking about these attributes here. What you need to do possibly is set up the attributes to be a translatable option, which I think is under this multilingual content setup. Scroll down. I think it might be one of these options here. If you want to send me details of which attributes you're talking about via email, Edward, I'll engage you in a conversation offline, if that's all right. Let me just pull up some more questions. Lots coming through at the minute. What happens if you set up two regions, one in English USD and one in Portuguese Reais, but someone who is out of Brazil wants to read in Portuguese but must pay in USD with the international gateway? Good question, because once you've linked a language to a currency, you're pretty much stuck with it. So we probably need some custom coding. And obviously, if somebody selects Portuguese and they're from Portugal, they want to pay in euros, I guess. So what we'd probably need is some custom coding there and links into the hooks on the checkout. So if the language is set to Brazilian, but the location is not in Brazil, we can look that up from, I guess, IP address or something like that. Then set the currency to USD. But that would be some custom coding to make that work, Scott. Is it possible to provide a link to the French version of a page so I could redirect mycorp.fr to mycorp.com? I'm not 100% sure what you mean, Rob, but what we can do, let me just, if you notice here, it holds a prefix of FR, so you could have mycorp.com/FR and do a redirect to that if you wanted to. Eric saying, would you recommend PayPal over other providers in terms of fees? Have you ever worked with WorldPay? Sorry, Eric, I haven't used that before. I've tended to stick with PayPal mainly because it's trusted by so many people. People are happy to work with PayPal and hand over the details to that. I know the fees are slightly higher than merchant accounts. So I'm waffling a little bit, Eric, so I can't really comment. But I do know there are a selection of different payment providers that you can use with WooCommerce. Eric's also asking, do you know if the buyer is charged a fee if they check out in a different country than the provider, or only when they try to withdraw funds from the provider? I'll explain what I see when I withdraw, because I based in the UK, so I withdraw into GBP, pound sterling, but I bill in dollars because the majority of my clients are from the US. So at that point, when I do that conversion and withdraw it to my bank account, I do get hit with a fee there, but the buyer is never charged a fee. It's always me that's hit with a fee. So I'm hit twice in effect. I pay a PayPal charge when the transaction is complete, and I get hit by an exchange rate fee when I withdraw into my bank account. It's just part of the issue of working across currencies, I'm afraid. So what I tend to do is factor that into my quotations when I'm giving them out. This is Dave again, sorry, I'm just having to scroll down, it's gone off the screen. Can I link up the Yahoo exchange rate API? Not use that personally, but as I said, the way this currently works, it's a fixed. Let me just go back to Multilingual. It's a fixed exchange rate. You could, I guess, write some custom codes to go off to the Yahoo exchange rate API, pull that information back on a daily or an hourly basis and automatically update your exchange rate tables, but that would be some custom coding. Can I host different stores on different domains? Yes, you can. Out the box, WPML has, let me just show you this, the ability to support subdomains. So for example, fr.webpolyglot.com for the French version. And so you need to obviously go into your hosting and set those up and point to the same location. If you're talking about having different domains entirely rather than subdomains, such as if you have webpolyglot.com and française.com for the French version, yes, I've not done this myself live yet, but there's a domain mapping plugin for WordPress. So you can map multiple domains to one version of WordPress and have that. And I understand that works with WPML, but it's not something I've done myself. So yes, it is possible, but like I say, I haven't done it myself. Eric's asking about SSL providers. One more question, maybe outside the realm of this call. Are there any SSL certificate providers you'd recommend for WooCommerce sites? So the SSL certificate lives at a layer above WooCommerce. It's more at your hosting, and I like, if I can remember the name of them, I can't for the life of me remember, Eric. I'll add that to my list of things and I'll email you them. SSL providers. But do check with your hosting. Often they have, if you use one of the common hosting providers like Bluehost, they have inbuilt certificates inside of the hosting package. So you pay an additional fee, but then you don't have to go off and get a certificate for authentication and that kind of thing. So check that out first. Rob's saying WooCommerce seems to do exactly what large e-commerce providers like BigCommerce, Shopify, and Magento do. Is there a catch? Not really, Rob. There is a premium site that they're offering. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. They give you the base package, which is what I've been wrong. They give you the base plugin for free, but then they have something called extensions, and those come at a price. So let me show you an example. If I can find the extensions. There we are. So for example, you have a set of basic payment providers that come with a free one, but if you want something more exotic like WePay or Authorize.net, then you're going to pay a one-off fee of roughly $40 to about $80 for one of these extensions. I guess that's what they do. It's a freemium model. You get the basic plugin for free, and then these more complicated extensions at a cost. Any more questions? Dave's saying, what other types of extensions are there? Well, there's loads. Things like you can push it into your accounting package, which is something I was looking at. I use Freshbooks, so there's an extension to push into Freshbooks. There are lots of shipping and drop shipping as well. Let me have a look at find the shipping ones. Shipping. So, for example, Shipwire is a drop shipper. So for $99 you can take your orders from WooCommerce and push them automatically into Shipwire and have them ship out your stuff. Or you got the Royal Mail, so that's a British mail provider, so it'll automatically interface with their system, push out a collection note, and they'll come and get your package from you. So it simplifies that kind of thing. And this, I think extensions is where WooCommerce is really going to come into its own. You've got a really good little base plugin, but people are developing these add-ons, so it's like a plugin for a plugin in effect. And all the problems that they've found, such as integrating with Royal Mail, for example, extensions are being built for them, and it's making it easier and easier to build very, very complicated and detailed e-commerce sites, not just in one language, but multiple languages in multiple currencies from this extension and hook system. Questions are running out now. Have we got any more questions? I'm aware that we've run over our 45 minutes already. I'll be known to ramble on when we get to the question and answer session. Any more questions? Let's make sure I haven't missed any. Okay, about the replay, it takes me an hour or so, sometimes two, to get the video packaged and get it uploaded. So it's probably going to be later today, early tomorrow morning before I get that to you. But once it's published, I'll send out an email to everyone who's attended the session. Any more questions? Have I missed anybody's question? Because there has been quite a lot. No, seemingly no more questions. What I'll do then is I will stick around for another 10-15 minutes on the chat, but I'll mute myself, and I'll wish you a good evening or a good afternoon or a good night even, depending upon your time zone. It's been Neil Matthews. Thanks a lot. Bye for now.